Because, I mean, you can't go wrong with beer and pizza. Am I right?
No, you can't.
Guys, I want to thank everybody for joining in tonight. And I do have a real quick request. If you could share the link with everybody, all of your friends, if y'all are meeting at a table and you're playing D&D tonight, take a break. Watch what we're doing. This is live. We've got some, if you have questions, we're going to throw some questions out there. If you want to just hang out and chat, that's what we're going to be doing too. But it's my understanding that YouTube has kind of glitched a little bit and is not pushing notifications out. So that's why I ask if you have the capability, take the link, share it with everybody that you know, and we'll get more eyes involved here. But tonight we have a very, very special guest, Ed Greenwood, creator of
I
Elminster, creator of the Forgotten Realms, and we're going to dive deep into a lot of topics. Ed, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm just a guy. I'm just a gamer.
Just a gamer. Hey, we all did that. We're all gamers. But you did something that was a little different than what our average gamer minds do. Forgotten Realms. I think that's a good topic to start off with. Forgotten Realms. It's my understanding that you created that originally as a not necessarily a place to game in, but as a location to write your stories and adventures. You wanted to be an author, a published author.
hmm
Is
Well,
that
okay. It wasn't so much that I wanted to be published. I was like 5 years
okay?
old. I wanted to tell stories to
Mm,
entertain myself. Um, but yeah, uh, I was writing a fantasy world. Oh, okay. I would read everything in my father's den,
sure.
and my father had everything: pulp adventure, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Robert E.
Mhm.
Howard, Seabury Quinn, Lord Dunsany, blah 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 blah. And I would come running up the stairs with a book, usually a disintegrating pulp paperback, give one to a friend
Right.
in uniform, and I would say, Dad, this one is great. What happens next? And my father usually had like important people in his living room and was meeting with them, and he wanted to get rid of me, in a hurry. And he would say things like, son, if you want another adventure, you're going to have to write it yourself. That author died in 1938.
Oh,
Wing, and away they go. So
wow.
I grew up writing pastiches of all of this stuff, and eventually I noticed that Fritz Leiber's Fafhrd and Grey Mouser, the short stories,
Mhm.
were episodes in the lives of these Mutt and Jeff characters, as well as being like a little window into the world. You got a little bit more in each.
Right,
So I started doing that for myself. So that's the realms. So
right.
it's a decade before D&D, and I'm just writing fantasy stories in a coherent, I hoped, coherent fantasy world, because then the stakes matter. What happens in the story matters if there's a history that you're building.
A lore, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so as you developed that, you started submitting, I I don't wanna call them articles, but for
hmm
lack of better words, little articles to Dragon Magazine.
hmm
Um, then they kinda reached out to you to say, "Hey, can you develop this for a, you know, full
Uh,
on."
well, okay. It was more like I'm a shy Canadian. I realize it doesn't look like that now when you're talking to me because I've had to learn to deal with the
Uh,
real world. My father sat me down once because I was so shy I couldn't look at people when I was a little
mhm,
kid and I blushed and so on. And he said, "Son, you're stuck on this planet with billions of people, and we know how to make new ones, so you're stuck with it. So deal."
yeah,
So, and I did, but I always thought it was really arrogant to say, "Hi, my name is Ed Greenwood. You never heard of me before, but I thought of a better way of rolling dice than you schmucks. So here's the article." You know, I thought that just made my skin crawl.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I also realized that players read Dragon as well as dungeon masters.
mhm,
So if you say something definitive as an omniscient author, there are 8 orcs in room 3, and their hit points are some rules lawyer, a player at the table who's read the
mm,
dragon knows exactly what's coming. But
mhm,
if you use an unreliable narrator, hello Elminster,
right,
who says, it's rumored, that there are orcs in the old ruins, but I don't credit it myself. You planted the idea,
Right.
but you haven't handcuffed the dungeon master.
Right.
Um, yeah, yes. To see Brim Squirrel in the chat. Yes, my father had very dry humor, and that sort of stuff came out of him all the time. I have to pull back now that my dad is no longer with us, and I am becoming my dad. I have to pull back on some of his bon mots because
Yeah.
he was always popping out stuff like that.
Yeah. It was so for me, and we kind of talked a little bit about this, before we went live. But for me, I started playing D&D in the early to mid '80s, and it was modules. That's what
Yes.
we had. That's what we
Yeah.
had access to. And, I'd go down to the local store, hobby shop that was also a comic book store. They sold Playboy magazines and sodas, all that kind of stuff. And we would, buy the module of the month and just go have fun with it. Then one day, I'm walking through the Mall of Memphis, Tennessee, and there's a little electronics boutique. They mostly sold, at that point, it was, uh, what is it? Commodore 60, no, IBM compatible uh, computer games. And I found in there a box set, the gray box set. Well, the gray box set.
Hmm.
And I think it was something like $15. I was like, oh
Hmm.
my God.
Hmm.
I bought it. It's like I didn't know what it was, and cracked it open. Huge maps, it just wowed me. Flipping through the Cyclopedia of the Realms, the other book, I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head at this point, but it was mostly lore driven, and it was less mechanic and more story, but it was like all of this information set in specific locations, and I was like, "Holy shit, you can do this kind of stuff?" And from that point forward, I never once bought another, well, I mean, I can't say I never. I did buy modules, over the years, but for the most part, that's when I really started creating my own adventures. And it was something that Forgotten Realms just really opened my eyes to was, wow, this is really, really cool. Um, it it became a very important element in my life, because I mean, in high school, grade school, high school, I was that nerd. I was that outcast. But when fellow nerds banded together, we had fun, and we became invincible, through the warrior, through the actions of a warrior, the actions of the monk, the mage, the spells, anybody that could cast spells. And it was just, I don't know, it's been a big part of my life over the years. Um, and I'm pleased as punch to have you on tonight.
Yep.
I'm kinda gushing a little
Thank you.
bit, so forgive that, but,
Oh no,
you
that's
know,
okay.
if I
But
didn't
I'm
get the
just a
intro
guy.
story out, yeah, I had to get the background out there, right?
Yeah.
Um, then, of course, during all of that time, I was also introduced to Dragon Magazine and subsequently, Dungeon Magazine. But in Dragon Magazine, what I thought was really, really fun was the introduction to, the Wizards 3. It was originally called Magic something. Boy,
Oh,
it's been years. Now I'm trying to access parts
pages
of my
from the
brain.
mages.
That may be it, yeah.
Yeah.
But in but what I always thought was really fun about it, I'm gonna pop up a couple of things here. So, this was some of the one of the original artworks for it. And so the whole premise, for those of you that aren't, familiar with it, this was a little thing that came up in Dragon Magazine that, that Ed Greenwood wrote. And it was Elminster, Mordenkainen, and, oh,
Braceland for most of them.
Raceland, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think in later episodes, there was,
Yeah.
Ruthine that came
Yeah.
in.
Because Raceland had gone missing in the novels.
Right, right.
So I had to have a Kryn stand in
Yeah,
and not say anything about Raceland's fate. So I
right.
thought, well, it's time for it to have a lady,
It
you
was,
know.
yeah, and you were kinda teasing things.
Yeah.
But what I loved about the artwork, and this is from the very first issue of it, or the first article of the Wizards 3, the whole premise is that Elminster just pops up in Ed's living room, and then Ed has to go and hide. Now, if you
There
guys
I
are
am.
looking, look carefully at the suit of armor, and you'll see 2 little eyes sticking out from the visor of the armor. Um, and in each subsequent issue, this is one that was a little bit later on. Again, you can see the armor there. You can see Ed's little eyes peeking out. He was kind of a silent observer, in this article. Um, it was something that it became kind of this neat, fun little thing to flip through. Okay, I'll read the story in a second, but I want to look at this artwork and see, where is Ed hiding?
Yeah.
Up there,
Yeah.
right there. I see the eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
was usually almost always in the suit of armor until it was blown up at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just such an interesting, take on it because it was, I mean, it took place on Earth, I mean, it was your living room,
Yeah.
and Elminster, what was really neat was that Elminster would come in and kinda impart to you, this bits of information about the realms. And so, I mean, I always thought that that was just a really fascinating take of, okay, so this is where he's getting his ideas. This this wise wizard is just popping in and sharing information with him. So what I mean, if you can delve into that a little bit, where did the concept for pulling it off that way, where did that come from?
Well, it was baked into the setting, which is called Forgotten Realms, because I had imagined that there was a multiverse.
Mhm.
And this is, by the way, I didn't steal this from Moorcock or anything like that. It's the very first novelist in the English language, as in, I don't mean the first writer of fiction. The first person to assemble novels as we know them was a guy called William Morris, a Renaissance man. He was a composer, he was an architect, he made wallpaper, he made furniture, um, and he wrote some fantasy bestsellers in his day. The Well at World's End is the big one that we remember. But the number 3 book was The Wood Between the Worlds, which C.S. Lewis loved so much that he swiped it from The Magician's Nephew and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe,
Mhm.
which is that there's a great ancient forest between all of our worlds, and gates or portals from our world you can pass into the wood. Like if you step across a pond in the moonlight at the right time, you step into the wood. If you step in across that same pond in the wrong direction or the wrong time of the day, you just get wet because your foot comes down in the water, sort of thing. But that was the conceit for why in our real world we had legends of dragons and wyverns and goblins and stuff, but you didn't trip over one on your way to school every day.
Right.
And it was because we've forgotten that all these gates are here, or we've forgotten how to use them. So we can't get to those other worlds anymore unless we are some of the secret few who
Right.
know the
Right.
secrets. And of
Right.
course, the Forgotten Realms is this fantasy world, sort of medieval come Renaissance, that's right next door to us, but we've forgotten the way to get there. So that's how, and so I just use that same idea that Elminster is a planeswalker, like many of the other wizards,
Sure.
and because he knows about our real world, he knows he can get like pina coladas here and black cherry pop and ice
Yeah,
cream.
yeah, yeah.
And he finds some nerd who loves fantasy, who's a mild-mannered boy, young boy, as I was at the time, and he goes, "That kid won't kick me out of the house and won't call the cops because I'm looking like a wizard. So if I'm raiding his fridge and freezer, he won't his first thing, and he's Canadian, so he doesn't have a gun in the house, so he's not
Right.
gonna shoot me.
Right.
He's gonna say, "Excuse me, sir?" my mom's going to be awfully angry if the black cherry ice cream is missing, and I'm going to get blamed, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
That's going to be my lead. So he'd say, "Oh, hi, kid. Well, let me tell you a story," as he stuffs the ice cream in.
right
So
as
that
he's
was the
scarfing it down.
yeah, that was the conceit. That's
Yeah,
and I thought this is really fun. And at the same time, I am seeding for everybody. This is an unreliable narrator. I don't play it up, but
right.
later on with Volo, we really played it up. Okay, that how unreliable. I mean, this guy is a pack of lies. Da 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 da. But Elminster is a propagandist for Mistra. So he's showing you the world, the way the world works from the point of view of somebody who thinks Mistra's pretty cool and should be in charge, sort of thing. So treat everything.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but look at your palm, hold it out level, fill it with salt. Take everything Elminster says with that salt. Anyway, but that's where it all came from, and I thought this is such a fun idea. And one of the things I wanted to, and you see, they stole that idea for Planescape and Spelljammer, the two different ways of traveling the planes.
Yeah.
So I never got to do the novels I wanted to do because of Angry Mothers from Heck and the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, of course, the moment you link our real world with that, and you have like, hey, we kids could go into the realms,
yeah,
and like Joel Rosenberg wrote in his Warriors books later, you'll probably say the wrong thing and get killed pretty quickly.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because you'll do and say the wrong thing.
right.
But in the other setting, in the fantasy setting, but it was this idea of, and I still have some ideas off the back of my head for the um, the people on our Earth who know how to use these gates and are keeping it very secret and quiet. Which, by the way, Philip Jose Farmer used for his World of Tears series, which inspired Roger Zelazny to do the Amber series. You see it all. There
Right.
are
It
no
all
new
connects.
ideas.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
what you do. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
And
I mean, there's
but
nothing new under the sun,
no,
as they
no.
say. Yeah. Um, Now, I do have a little. This is a little piece of trivia for everybody. Let me see if I can find it here and pull it up for you. I'll show you this one. This
Ah,
is one and after which, uh, actually, this was kind of an interesting one too, because at one point, Elminster's beard like got really, really short and then
yep.
really, really long. I thought
Yes.
that was cool. But this is one that actually took place, I think, in the year 2000. This is well after the suit of armor had been blown up,
Hmm.
and you're hiding down there underneath the
Yep.
bookcase.
Yep.
But the piece of trivia that I want to throw out there for everybody, this is the very final episode or article of the Wizards 3. You've got Mordenkainen, you've got Elminster, and again, notice he's back there in the background with very, very, very short beard. Um, the man's got style, doesn't matter, long beard, short beard, it's all stylish. But in this one, you're hiding up in the rafters, even though we do see the little suit of armor back there, but you're
Yep.
hiding up in the ceiling. And in the previous article, a food fight basically broke out.
Yep.
And in this one, you've got the artist has put in there, no throwing food.
Yep.
But the Easter egg and the bit of trivia that I want all of the viewers here to see if they can figure out, and give you a bonus, give you 200 bonus XP if you can figure this one out. If you take a look at the magazine that she's reading, it's a Dragon magazine. See if you can figure out what issue that is. That one took me a bit to track down, but I did find it, and I do know the answer. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to try to figure that one out too.
I won't blow it.
But let's see. So with that, I kind of want to shift a touch to the Forgotten Realms itself. Um, and again, I mentioned that I picked it up back in when it actually first came out back in '87. And when I did, if I had to look this up, but it does specify that at that point in time, it's the year 1357 Dale Reckoning. Um, jump to today, 2026, and current day and time in the realms is 1501 Dale Reckoning. Now, I did the math beforehand so that y'all wouldn't have to suffer through me, trying to break it out, calculator, count on my fingers, and all that stuff. But it was basically 39 years from ago that's from 1987 to 2026. That was almost 40 years ago that I bought that. In the Dale Lands, or not Dale Lands, in Forgotten Realms time, Dale Reckoning time, 144 years have passed. So, looking at how we have advanced on Earth, uh, just over the past 100 years, even just from a strictly technological aspect, where do you see Forgotten Realms advancing, for example, say by their Dale Reckoning year 2000?
Yeah, that's a toughie because,
I can,
um,
yeah,
okay, so first of all, when you say advancing, there is the implicit belief that society progresses and that
yes.
society will progress sort of like our real world thing. The printing press,
Hmm.
mass literacy, um, the globe is explored, maps get better,
Right.
the um, there's colonization, or whatever you want to call it. We will rape and plunder um, vegetables and fruits that we couldn't
Hmm.
get on our own tables, or plants or whatever from afar, because the globe quote gets smaller. All that stuff.
Right. Right.
Um, and technology in various ways, whether it's, and by technology I don't necessarily mean electronics and computers. That's down the
Correct.
road. It's
Correct.
something as simple as a time zone,
Right.
or a method of keeping accurate time, like a water clock,
Right.
that sort of
Right.
thing, will come into being. So there's the implicit thing that it will move forward. There's also the implicit thing that um, it will somewhat ape our real world, even though this is a setting in which magic demonstrably works right in front of you, and gods walk the earth if they
Hmm.
want to, and things aren't going wrong. One of the things, the 144 years that have jumped in the realms, 100 of them were done at one fell swoop.
Right.
We're just going to move the calendar ahead past this cataclysm. We've had
Right.
two major cataclysms: the
Right.
time of troubles and the spell plague.
Hmm.
And the spell plague, if you look at it carefully, it basically means that anything built with magic falls apart,
Hmm.
like buildings with
Hmm.
living people in them at the time of the collapse.
Right.
And people go nuts to a greater or lesser degree. Their brains fry if they were magically active at the time the spell plague hits. So that could be considered analogous to the Dark Ages if you take the simplified Sunday school version of the Dark Ages, which is, oh, knowledge was lost. We took a great step
Right.
backwards into barbarism because guys who didn't wash their hair but had lots of weapons overran the Roman Empire and everybody died. That sort of thing,
Right.
which is like I say, this is a Sunday school version because yeah,
Sure.
there was progress during the Dark Ages and all that. We just didn't have Christian, Roman Christian, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But um, I'm saying all of this jabber to say that we really don't know what it's going to do in the next 500 years, because the gods take a hand, magic takes a hand, the
Hmm.
rise and fall of races.
Hmm.
Because if you look back in the history of the realms, you've had the giants fighting with the dragons
Right.
for supremacy. And then you
Right.
had great elven empires and the crown wars that destroyed them all. And then you have the dwarves not reproducing enough to match their losses over the years, so they're declining. And then you have the thunder blessing, and that takes care of that. And then you have humans running everything, but orc hordes are, So is it the age of the orc? Is it the age of the human? What will happen? Um, and then it's like, okay, who will jump in which direction? Because we're seeing more and more stuff in the realms, like the dragon princes of Murgom. Well, what are they going to do? Like, is it time to say, yeah, it's so nice you have all these civilized lands, so much food for us, all laid out.
Right.
We're going to
Right.
just go raiding.
Right.
I'll gobble up that province this week. That,
Yeah.
and again, so there are too many variables to say, but I am going to assume that in general, three or four things are going to happen. Literacy rises and magical knowledge and tech knowledge rises. Lantan and the Gondites can't keep a lid on it forever.
Mhm.
because people can reverse engineer things after they buy something simple from a gone thing. Like for instance, you have the two ways of doing your crossbow. The simple one where you have a foot stirrup and you put
Right.
your foot to the ground and you yank the bow up and
Right.
you've now, or the other one with the windlass
Right.
where you crank it and you
Right.
can have heavier crossbows. The windlass can be used for all sorts of things in the kitchen or for making rope go taut while you're braiding rope together, or maybe it's heavy yarn, maybe it's partially waterproof wool
Or
or
maybe
blue.
a horseless driven
Ah,
cart.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
people who aren't worshiping at the Temple of God in order to get access to these things can make them themselves. So that will spread. And that also means ideas from various races. And of course, it's a little difficult in our real publishing world because you have the copyright holder of the game
Right.
trying to get rid of half elves, half orcs, half
Right.
everything on a, I don't know, uh, a social basis. But at the same time, what would be happening in the real setting is there'd be more and more of fraternization.
Sure.
So you would have more and more people who think, hey, orcs aren't necessarily bad. I'm married to one, sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And so you're going to have more and more acceptance. That doesn't mean you're not going to have wars, but
Right.
now the wars are over. You personally are being a dick, not all
Right.
orcs are bad.
Right. Right. Right.
And so you're going to have more complicated conflicts. You're going to have more. We're going to have a pact to get along because you're going to have more and more pragmatic people, the
Mhm.
rise of the middle class, the people who make things and do the work,
Right.
who say, no, I am not
Yeah.
going to have 42 sons so you can kill them all off in
Right.
wars.
Right.
Thank you very much. No.
Right.
And that's just me. You wait until my wife hears about this because she has to do the work of those
Right.
42
Right.
sons. So you're going to have more and more of the we grow together culturally, whether we want to or not. And then you're going to have more and more of what we call high level diplomacy in the real world, the United Nations sort of thing, where
Mhm.
if you have gigantic dragons and scourges,
Sure.
or cloud giants in castles that fly around, or the ancient Netherese resurrecting their
Right.
cities that fly around, we're going to have to come to some meeting of the minds here, or we're just going to blow you out of the sky
Yeah.
because we can't afford to have you behaving like you used to behave.
Right.
So therefore, it's the old thing that you saw when the Iron Curtain fell in Eastern Europe,
Mhm.
and you had soldiers being clubbed by little old ladies who'd taken cobblestones and put them in their purses.
Right.
And they were clubbing soldiers that ordinarily they would have been terrified by because they said, I have nothing left to lose. My life is almost over. I am starving. You are continuing to oppress us. You are going down.
Yeah.
And so more and more of that is going to happen in the setting with the great world spanning scourges. And
Sure.
you're going to have some people agreeing, no, please do not summon any more demons and devils. We have enough problems
Right.
here at home,
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
So I think it's going to get messy, but it's going to become more of what I would call mercantile war and intrigue, and
Mhm.
less orc hordes and dragons diving down out of the sky to gobble us all up. Um, we already have, and I've been carefully seeding this through the realms, dragons who capture their own Rothe and so on. Do not eat them, but pick them up in their claws, fly them to this remote mountain valley that only they know how to get into and out of because they can fly, and saying, now go breed, breed. And then I can have lunch every Thursday. You know,
Yeah.
they're in other words, they're becoming farmers of their food.
Yeah.
Um,
So now instead of the family having 42 kids for the king to send off to be slaughtered, they're having the 42 kids for the dragons to, have lunch.
well, and there's the thing until you get rid of the dragon, or
Right.
until you convince
Right.
the dragon with the aid of a little wizard as muscle
Mhm.
or sorcerer. Perhaps
Sure.
you discover all your daughters have the power of sorcery genetically in your
Oh,
family,
yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
say to them, you know that dragon over there? I think you guys have to work on the dragon. You have to offer that dragon the choice between oblivion and working with us.
Right.
And, if you were riding that dragon and telling it what to do, and it actually started to accept you doing that, you could head off a lot of these problems. And you see, and that sort of
Right.
thing will happen all over the world, and the world will change. And it may become more and more like the old joke in the original Dungeon Master's Guide, papers and paychecks.
Right.
We're playing
Right.
this new game,
Yeah, we're
papers and
playing this new
paychecks.
game. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that to me has been I won't lie. I mean, that has been a question, a ponderment that has honestly, it's kept me awake a few more than a few nights, just going, all right, so I wonder really where things could go.
Mhm.
What if we introduce artificer, for example, into the Forgotten Realms? How much damage could an artificer do? How could they advance things in, say, 100 years or 500 years, whatever? Um, and it's just basically it's just a thought game, you know?
Yeah. But
Uh,
here, the reason I do not, like, give definitive answers for that
oh,
or
yeah, no,
push it
I
forward in the
I
game
fully get
is
why,
because
yeah.
this is where your gaming table comes into play.
Right,
You
right,
guys should decide that.
right,
And
and
I
that's
say guys in a non-gender, yeah,
yeah, and I think that honestly, I think over the years, that has also been one of the, uh, coolest aspects that or let me rephrase that. I think that has been one of the most admirable attitudes that anybody has ever had towards something that they helped put together. Um, not to slam anybody, but, those that know about Fire and Ice, I think you can understand who I'm specifically talking about, would be rather upset if somebody came into their sandbox, if you will, and started creating their own things. You've got other folks that have written a series of books of kids going through high school and throwing magic spells at each other that absolutely refuses to have a game written about their product because they're that protective of it. And I get the protectiveness of it, but what your approach has been with Forgotten Realms has been like, I've created this, I've put this out there. You guys get to run with it. You guys get to create it. And I don't know, there's just something about that has always been so refreshing. Um, Because it's like, "Oh, I have permission to create what I wanna create with the tool set that this person has provided." And that's a rare thing to see.
mm,
It's like, we were talking in the pre-show about, vehicles, cars. If Ford pushes out a car and, I decide, "Well, I'm gonna change the doors, and I'm gonna change how the hatchback works, and I'm gonna change the tire." No. You just can't do it because it's not made that way. Um, that's kind of a weird analogy, I realize, but the point is that, with Forgotten Realms, like you said, that's where the gamer's table comes into play, and I think it's an answer that's very respectable. I think that it's very cool to have that kind of an outlook on something that you have put your entire life into creating, you know?
mhm, yeah.
Um
Yeah, it has been.
I mean, I really, I mean, since you were 5, 6 years old,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm 66 now. I started when I was 5, and these days, about the last 35 years or so, not a single day goes by that I don't get a Realms lore question from somebody, and I try
Yeah,
and answer them all
yeah, you do,
because
you do.
yeah.
I'm part of the Discord that is all there, and I think too, you take some of those questions, you not only answer them in the Discord, but you also, every now and again, throw the answers to other questions up on, Twitter or, X, whatever
Yeah.
we're calling it now.
Yeah, whatever we're calling it today.
Yeah, whatever we're calling it these days. Um, so I mean, and that's the other thing that also I find very cool is, and maybe it's always been this way, but having access to to your favorite author. I mean, can you imagine growing up, if you had access to Lewis or um, hell, anybody that had written books that you had read, just imagine like I don't know, the answers that you could get, the burning question. I get there's a mystery to all of it of not knowing, and I think that's part of it. But this day and age, we have the technology. You're in Canada right now. I'm in the middle of bumblefuck Arkansas, literally nowhere, in the middle
I
of
always
nowhere.
wondered where Bumblefuck was.
It's in the middle of nowhere, yeah. But here we are chatting with each other, and I've got a buddy of mine, we do a live stream, every Sunday morning. He lives in Australia, and it's just we would never have this connection, 50, 60 years ago,
Mhm,
and I just that's also kind of what I mean by technology. Of course, in Forgotten Realms, I think you've got the little magic mouths that, you can talk back and forth like walkie-talkies.
mhm.
I've always loved those little, magic items, but anyway, but that all said, that means, Ed, you're not slowing down. What really brings us to the chat tonight is the release. There's 2 things that I really wanna cover, and that's the release of Souls of Talking, Souls of the Taking, which is book
For the
1
taking.
for the taking, sorry. Yes,
That's
for
okay.
Souls for the Taking, which is The Return of Larlock. Now,
Book 1.
book 1. We'll leave that as a tease for that. Um, but it is something that you can get over on DM's Guild, and I've got a link down there in the description if you guys are interested in it. But what you can say of it as a teaser, what what can you share? What is the book?
Okay, so the book is, about 150 pages long. Um, 20,000 words of it, the first 20,000 words, is New Realms fiction about 3 protagonists. They're on the cover,
Hmm.
and one of them is a descendant of the Falconhands, and they have decided to see the world and make their own fortune and have adventure, and they hire on as caravan guards from the heartlands, from the lands about the Sea of Fallen Stars, the Inner Sea. Yes, Forgotten Realms had the Inner Sea long before Galarian had the Inner Sea, folks. That's just the way things work when you're as older than dirt. But these guys hire on as caravan guards, and as the book opens, yeah, there they are, the 3 of them.
Yeah,
They are within sight. They are camped within sight of the lights of Scornubel, the city of Scornubel, the lawless caravan city. And then, of course, everything goes wrong.
of course.
They are heading for Scornubel, and later in the book, they are heading out of Scornubel on the tradeway, which will eventually take them, if they ever get there, to Waterdeep. However, things happen. Um, and
As
that's
they
where
naturally do.
Souls,
Yeah.
yeah, where that's where Souls for the Taking comes in. Think about in the D&D Who Takes Souls. Um, think about the subtitle of the book, Return of Larlock,
Hmm. Hmm.
and think about the fact that the latter half of the book has NPC write-ups for just about all the major ones you'll meet. It has a floor plan of a tavern in Scornubel. It has the best, most detailed write-up of Scornubel I've done so far. So yeah, that's what a big thing you're getting in there is a like the old second edition Forgotten Realms Adventures book that I did with Jeff Grubb, in which I
Hmm.
did all the cities. This is doing all the city and then some. So and that's about all I can tell you about Souls for the Taking, at
Yeah,
the
I mean,
moment.
what's cool about it is, like you said, it is part novel, but also part source book. So I mean, it's something that if you did pick it up and read it, not only would you get the backstory of these characters, and of course, the events that they're going through, and the trials and tribulations and all that, you also get the maps of the areas that they're in, that fits very well into your fifth edition game. You get stat blocks. There's a new magic item. I won't divulge what that is, but it is pretty neat. And so I mean, it's I will say this, uh, that Ed and I talked for a good 20, 30 minutes prior to the show, and I asked, this is states that this is book 1, and if there was going to be, how many books there were going to be in this series, and the answer was simply, "Well, if this one sells well, then there'll be a book 2." I mean,
Yeah.
hey, that's the way it works, right?
Yep.
So I think it's a good book. I've read through it. I really like the maps in it. I like how, and it's not just map. I mean, there's also some information that goes along with said maps that also fleshes out the towns, the city that the map is of, and I think it's worth it. I mean, I think it's a good purchase. You can get it either PDF or you can get it as a physical print. Um, yeah. So I mean, anyway, if you guys want it, link is down in the bottom. The second big element that I wanted to go over was this is the one that really got me into, oh my God, really? We're getting this? Drool coming out of my mouth. Uh, and that was all about RealmsBound. So we've got coming out this year, one per quarter, if I understand correctly. Uh, it is, this is going to
Mm.
be, that's the last one. Watch me get these all completely out of order. That's
It's the
the
third one.
third one, maybe the fourth time.
That's the
Nope.
second one.
There we go. Okay.
There's the
There we
first
go.
one.
We got Guide to the Dale Lands coming out quarter one, 2026. And while I'm not going to ask for like specifics about it because I want to be surprised just as everybody else, I think I already kind of have an idea as to where this is going. And it's basically correct me if I'm wrong. It's basically going to be a fancier like gazetteer
Yeah.
specific to the Dale Lands.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one,
Hmm.
and okay, first of all, let me begin at the beginning. This is not me. This is a talented team of people
Hmm.
led by Eric Mengi,
Hmm.
um, assisted by Savannah
Yes.
excuse me, Houston McIntyre, who are two successive head honchos for the Moonshays campaign for Adventures League that
Right.
Baldwin Games was running. Savannah succeeded Eric. Um, they have put together a team that includes Forgotten Realms designers, one former Realms traffic cop from TSR, um, a bunch of fiction writers that you know in the Realms that have been published as fiction writers, a whole bunch of Realms fans, and
Hmm.
they are all taking their own little bit of it. There's deadlines and everything. It's very
Sure. Yeah.
professional. Um, so we start with 4 books in one region of the realms. So the Dale Lands is the first region. They plan to announce the second region at Gen Con this year. Um, I honestly don't know which one it is because we've got an entire planet to cover.
And
Um,
that's
eh,
what I was going to say is I think that hearing about Realms Bound, that when I ran across it was exciting enough. Okay, but on their website it states that in subsequent years there's going to be more. I'm like, oh my
yes.
god, I
Oh
can't
yeah.
wait. And I
So
mean, this is yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
let's delve into that first book, The Guide to
Yeah,
the Dale Lands.
yeah,
So you get a deep dive into every Dale, and they're all different.
yeah.
You get 3 introductory adventures. You get a mechanics chapter, and in the mechanics chapter, there's backgrounds for your characters in this area,
Sure.
species. You get trinkets, you get spells, you get critters, you get new monsters, and you get new magic items. And then eventually, in this first quartet of books, you get to play Sorials as player characters. Bladeback, Finhead, Hornhead, you know. Uh,
Hmm.
and then the second book, The Insights, think of a bigger, fatter Volo's guide.
Yeah, yeah.
Inns, taverns, fest halls, schools, bardic colleges, tons of NPCs, factions,
Hmm.
3 new factions, bastions, tools for social encounters like tavern games you'd play in the taverns, NPC stat blocks. Imagine Aurora's whole Realms catalog was expanded. You had new listings for cheeses and wines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ta-da! Okay,
Right.
new feats. Ah, yes, and aha, and we're getting okay. Um, so these will not contradict the two new Realms books from Wizards.
Right.
They build on them. These will
Right.
all be available at DM's Guild. The third book, Delves, is a bunch of dungeons.
Sure.
The fourth book is a bunch of adventures. Ta-da! But
And it
okay,
all takes place in the current year 1501 Dale recommend.
that's right,
Yeah.
1501 DR. And this is something I could not do on my own. So I am, providing
Mhm.
lore where necessary.
Mhm.
I will do a little writing, like forwards and so on. But this is a team of
Yeah,
people who
yeah.
love the realms,
Yeah.
bringing you what they love about the realms.
Right.
It's the stuff I just don't have the bandwidth to do. I have 16
Understand.
projects going on right now.
It's a
Okay.
lot.
you
Yeah.
know, and I have a day job.
Yeah. Right.
you
Right.
know so I mean, my time is like, that's the precious treasure. As you get older, you go, I don't have much time left. Oh my god, what am I going to use it for?
I
But I
yeah,
mean,
I'm there, yeah. I'm
yeah,
knocking on
yeah.
that door too, yeah, I get it.
But if you look at this huge team of people with very different backgrounds, all ages, all genders, all heritages, what they come from,
Mhm.
all different interests. So some of them are interested in fighting, some of them are interested in intrigues, some of them are interested in, okay, where does the food come from? Where does the poop go to? Some of them are interested in
Right.
trade and so on. So
Right.
you get all of this stuff put in together, and you're getting the regional source books that I wanted from the beginning. And we started with the old
Mhm.
FR series in
Mhm.
second edition, and then it got derailed because there were super adventures and there were changes in the timeline. There were
Right.
new additions to the game. And then it was like, oh, Waterdeep's popular. Let's do Waterdeep again.
Right.
Okay, can I do it proper? No, 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 no. So, and they would say, well, we got to do another Waterdeep book because Waterdeep sells. And I said, because that's all you ever sell them.
Right.
You know,
Right. No, I mean, if, and I wanna jump over to a question real quick, but, Gaming with ADHD, asks, um, is there any part of Faerun you wished you had been able to explore before?
before what? Before now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The sword right now, uh, the copyright holder seems to equate the Forgotten Realms with the Sword Coast, and we
Mhm.
seldom move beyond that.
Right.
But I would have liked to have seen Cormyr given the same treatment we gave Waterdeep.
Yeah.
Silvery Moon gets the same treatment that we got for Waterdeep. Baldur's Gate gets proper treatment.
Mhm.
Neverwinter gets. You see
Mhm.
how the list begins to.
Right.
Westgate.
Right.
I can tell you that Eric Scott DeBee's been working on Westgate for a long time, and see, there are all sorts of places that I would like to have seen more. All of Sembia. Um, And I would have liked to seen a diplomacy style game, as in the real world board game
Yeah.
diplomacy, or
Excellent game, by the way. Yeah.
or a trading game, a mercantile trading
No.
game that works as simply as the mechanics of diplomacy, so that we are looking at the long view of trade routes. Because
No.
one of our Realms editors back in the day actually wrote Phil Athens' The Watercourse trilogy, a series of novels in which he tried to explore what if you actually made canals on a trade route, and you could like join the Sea of Fallen Stars, the inner sea, down through the Lake of Steam and the Sword Coast that way, and
Yeah.
how would that change, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And we had to build into the realms at the very beginning. Why are there caravans? Why do ships still sail if you can just use gates to
Right.
take all the food? Well, okay, every time you do that, there's the risk that, like a bag of holding,
Right.
something will just go missing.
Right.
So and
Yeah.
there seem to be limits. Like if you are an individual adventurer and you carry 42 suits of armor through a gate staggering, some of them are going to go missing. However, if you are a guy who strips down to his underwear and sews 6 gems into his gotchis, and steps through the gate, it's a fairly high percentage that on the other side, yeah, you'll be standing there in your gotchis, but the 6 gems will still be there.
Yeah.
So, as long as you're not greedy, you can get through. But
Yeah.
that's not enough for bulk cargo. So you still have to have caravans and
Yeah.
ships that sail and
Makes
so on.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you never know when an accident's going to happen, and you'll pop through said portal or gate and not have your Johnson any longer.
Yes, yes,
I
the
mean,
appearing in the middle of the courtroom or the royal court,
yeah.
stark naked, going,
Oh,
hi.
I yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, I
hey,
mean,
could
one of
happen.
the best scenes in modern Marvel, for me, like
Yeah.
the world builder, is the scene in a particular Spider-Man movie where they're trying to find Spider-Man and they keep opening gates and different Spider-Men
Yeah.
keep coming through them
Yeah.
into this
Yeah.
apartment, and I'm going, yes, yes,
That's
finally.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So from that world builder, mindset, okay, what is the aspect of when you're developing something, what what is the what's your favorite part of it? Is it the physical location? Is it the NPCs? I know that it all comprises the whole thing, but there's gotta be, like, one element of it that's like, "Yeah, this is really flipping my trigger. This is what I like."
Okay, so the realms is stories. So it's the stories that come first. And the realms is people, not geography. So the people, the characters that go with those stories come second. And thirdly, I imagine the realms in my mind as a place I can travel around it.
Mhm.
I know what happens if I turn this way or turn that way. If I'm standing on the battlements of a particular castle and I look this way or I look that way, I know what I can see, which, by the way, drove people at TSR nuts in the early days because
I
they'd
can
say,
imagine.
okay, whether they'll just sneak in the back. Nope. I'd say there are 3 guards posted there. What do you mean there's 3 guards? There's 3 guards posted there. Here's all my notes.
Yeah.
It's like,
Holy shit, there really were 3 guards. He wasn't just making that up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, I do like to see the world as a real place I can walk
Yeah,
around in.
yeah.
Because if you treat it as real, it starts to feel real when you're writing
Right.
about it.
Right.
And um, we use this phrase human nature, but one of the things I've been trying to stitch into the realms from the beginning is that it's a universal nature. So if you read Elminster and Mythdrannir, the elves are being just like humans. They're jaded, they're catty, some of them are
Sure.
proud, some of them aren't. It's not human nature, it's everybody's nature. The dragons are the same way. They're just
Exactly. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dragons have great personal power, so they tend to be very much like your narcissists. Well, of course I'm the center of the universe,
Yeah, right.
sort of thing.
Right.
But that way you can put in little bits of humor and little tells, like, "No, I never go there. The first time I went there, I was incontinent all over the place, and everyone saw it, so I never go back there," says the dragon. You know,
Right.
and this becomes something important
Right.
because the dragon says, "No, I'm not going to attack that area. No, I was terribly embarrassed once when I was much younger, so no, that's not in the cards.
Yeah.
You take care of that. I'll take care of something else." And you go, "What?" But I mean, it really matters to this particular being. So that's where the stories come first. They flow through the characters. Geography comes last. But when I reach the geography, it's like, how is this going to be different from the
Right.
next thing? Because the one thing I want to avoid in the realms is the feeling that uh, immigrants had or prisoners of war had in the Second World War when they got brought across to North America and they had to cross the Great Western Plains or in the United States or the prairies in Canada, same name for the same thing, where suddenly it's endless waves of endless amber waves of grain that just go on and on and on for
Right, right,
days,
right, right.
and you go, okay, no, that's there in the real world. I don't want the realms to be like that. I want the realms to
Right.
have the fjords, the fiddly bits,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lots of fiddly bits because
Yeah.
they're tactically interesting.
Right.
for a war gamer, for a board gamer, for a role-playing gamer, having all this stuff cheek by joe and having this mountain pass is incredibly important because it's the only way through immediately is a story idea.
Right.
The Constantinoples of the world are far more interesting than the um, places on the map that are just a name, unless the place, like Timbuktu, acquires its
Sure.
own notoriety for other
Right.
reasons,
Right.
or for the fact that it's an oasis or trade stop in the middle of howling nothing.
Right.
Um, so I'm always interested what makes the geography interesting. So it's the third piece, but I'm always trying to make it interesting and different.
That so the whole reason for asking that, not that, not that my channel is huge by any means, but I'm hoping that at some point somebody out there, maybe the next Ed Greenwood is listening to that, pulls that as inspiration and runs with it because I firmly believe that anybody out there could easily create their own worlds. And I mean, I know I've even created mine. Truth be known, there's been a lot of stuff that's been ripped directly out of Forgotten Realms and thrown into mine just because it's like, oh wow, that's really cool. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, but I'm going to use this element of it. I'm going to change it this way, and I'm going to tighten it this way and tweak it this way and make it fit. Because like you, I've got all these other things going on, and I mean, it's a dynamic environment that I can't help but feel players get a better feel of or a better immersion of when things are moving and gears are turning behind the scenes. But I like I said, I asked that specific question because I know that it helped me to create stuff, and I would hope that in some narcissistic way, maybe I'm helping somebody else out there to create something as well. I think that my view mimics a lot of yours in terms of what I put out there, what I create and put out there. I want folks to run with and make it their
Hmm.
own and do what they can with it. Um, it's never been about making mad cash. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's more, I don't know, like you said earlier, we're only here for a finite time. We're on this planet for a very short amount of time, and I want to do what I can do to better those around me.
Yeah, you leave the world a better place.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
even if nobody knows you did it, you know that you have the satisfaction of, yeah, I
exactly.
did a good thing today.
Right,
I made
right,
the world a little bit brighter today,
right.
which is, frankly, I think that's the best goal.
I
It's
think
it,
so.
it's not about, playing Monopoly and ending up with all the properties on the, and getting
Right,
rich,
right,
because what happens when you die? You can't take it with you.
right,
You know,
right.
it's the friendships we make. What was it?
Yeah, yeah,
My father used to say, "It's the friends we make along the way before we kill
yeah, yeah.
them."
So jumping back slightly to Wizards 3. This is one that just kind of popped into my head. So that the final issue that appeared in where she's reading the magazine, that was the last that we kind of heard of Elminster being in your home. Everybody else kind of went back to their own multiverse realm.
Hmm.
Does Elminster still come and visit every now and again?
Oh, sure. And there was a now lost because WotC took it down or destroyed
Mm,
the link. It's probably lost because I think that server went down later. There was a little one that was online only where I was taken to meet some of the Seven Sisters because they'd been reading their portrayals I'd done in my novels, and they had a bone or two to pick, you know.
sure.
uh, um, and Elminster was saying, yeah, sort of like, "Don't worry, I'll see that you have a good funeral," sort of thing, As he's,
Yeah.
so there have been little bits that I've introduced since then. But yes, Elminster does still visit. Um, So do Laurel, Illustrial, and Storm.
Okay.
Not as often. Storm usually when she needs to swipe something for baking or cooking because she's got a bunch of Harpers in her farmhouse, and somebody has half inched all the semi-sweet chocolate behind her back, and now she needs it for a recipe. So she sort of bustles into the kitchen and says, "So Ed, where do you keep your chocolate?" And I said, "Hidden in the same belly yours is in," sort of thing,
Yeah.
but no. She also knows that I was brought up by my Aunt Clara, and grandmas and aunts, who went through two world wars and a depression. So the house is stocked for a small army to descend upon you and need to eat. There's spares of everything,
Yeah.
and when you get a special on canned soup, you buy them,
Sure.
all of them,
Yeah.
and you put them somewhere. Yeah, Storm does that. Laurel and Illustrial like to plunder my book collection. This is not my library. This is a small corner of my writing office. There are 400,000 books in this house.
Oh my word.
Um, and they particularly enjoy some of the new, more torrid romances, but they read them as comedies, not as, you know,
Right.
warm books that turn you on,
Right.
but more like we would enjoy a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. Is over the top, because when you've been alive for about 1,000 years, um, you've been everywhere, you've seen everyone, and you've done them. I mean, you've done everything.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Right.
therefore, it's like, no, no, this writer's obviously never done that in real life because it doesn't feel like that, or whatever. So they read them for pleasure, for
Yeah.
amusement pleasure, and occasionally read them aloud. And that was one scene they cut out of Silverfall, um, because Phil was very firm that we do baton tossing from one sister to another, but otherwise we never have scenes where the sisters are together on stage for any length of time. They were just supposed to pass the baton and move on. And I had a scene where the three of them were looting my study of books and reading passages aloud, which of course I had to fictionalized, make up. I
Sure.
couldn't quote stuff from other real authors' books.
Right.
But they
Right.
were they were like quoting to each other, sort of, "Ha ha! I could top that. Look what this author says." And he said this was absolutely hilarious, and it has to come out of the book.
Right. It's I mean, so I mean, yeah, I'm having a hard time kind of putting the question together here. Um, I'll go off on stuff like that with my wife, friends at work, and they always look at me like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Where are you coming up with this?" And it's like, I don't know. It's just there. It's I've experienced it. It's stuff that I know and can talk about fluently. And so, hearing you say this, about these characters, I mean, it's like they are real because they are, you know?
Hmm.
And I can only imagine, like, I know the crazy looks I get. I can only imagine some of the crazy, looks that you have gotten over the years, talking about those things.
There, there's a really good scene at the end of Saving Mr. Banks, the movie, where Pamela Travers is telling Walt Disney that this character,
Mhm.
Mary Poppins, is not real. And he's saying, "Oh, no, 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 I disagree. To thousands of people around the world," you know,
Right.
and he still
Right.
launches into what the character means to them.
Right.
So therefore, to them, even if it's only in your imagination, the character is real and
Right.
stands for something. It gives you a weather vane or a direction in your life. Maybe it gives you an anchor point. And there's one important thing. We all grow up with anchor points in our life. Our grandparents, our parents, who we think are always going to be there.
Right.
They are the furniture, they are the foundation, they are always there until they aren't. And some of us have a hard time dealing with a world without the person who should always be there. And even
Mhm.
when you get over the grief, you have things like somebody will tell me a good joke, or I'll read a new book and like it. Oh, my dad's gonna love this. Well, my
Right.
dad's been dead for so many years. It's a little late now, but I
Right.
still immediately, oh, I got to tell dad, or
Yeah.
and but the fictional character can't die.
Right.
They are always there. Terry's dead. Terry Pratchett. Roger Zelazny's dead. I will never talk to either of them again. They were both friends, but their characters are still alive. When I read the books, when I reread the books, yeah, there'll be no new ones, but I reread the books and I hear their voices in
Yeah.
their characters, and they're alive again, and they are still there telling me the same lessons, giving the same advice, good or bad, making the same lousy jokes, but they are pointing me at things in my life. So they can't be taken away.
Right.
Real
Well,
people die, they leave us.
yeah.
Fictional ones don't.
And plus, when you go back and reread, especially when you have that voice, from your memory of what they sounded like, and you go back and reread, depending on where you're at, in your life,
Mhm,
you're gonna get a little bit different direction and instruction from them, um, upon a reread,
mhm,
and that's something that I've always liked too is rereading a good book.
mm,
I it's it's one of those things where it's very sobering. I like you. My experience with my grandfather was that way, and I'll read something, I'll come across something, and go, "Oh man, Newt would love this." Oh yeah,
mhm,
yeah. He passed away in '93,
mm.
and it's like,
Yeah,
but in my mind, I can still have that conversation with him. You know,
mhm,
and so I mean that I guess how you and I are describing it now. Maybe that's why I get the crazy looks, because to me, I can still invoke and pull
mhm,
that character and put life into it and have that conversation with him and make a fictionalized version of, and then run with that, you know?
yeah,
So, I mean, it makes sense. I get that. Uh,
yeah.
Shifting a touch, I wanna go a little bit more on a lighter subtopic there. Uh,
Yeah,
that's
before we
that's a
leave you all in
Yeah,
tears and
yeah, that's a deep one. I wanna jump a little bit back over to, the Realms Bound. What really excited me was, and I mentioned this a moment ago, was reading that in future and in the years to come, the years to follow, 2027, 2028, etcetera, there's going to be more projects each year that are gonna cover different facets of the realms, that we're even going to see new areas.
Mhm.
Um, have you heard any talks about, and I would assume that WotC has the rights to the map itself,
Yeah,
the
um,
landscape?
yeah, but
Uh,
you can draw your own map that
right,
that,
right.
covers the same areas in the same way that, um, the specific map is copyright, but if you drew a map of your state, just
Right,
just sketching it on a piece of
right, right,
paper,
right, right.
nobody can say, "Hey, we have copyright on" No,
No,
no, no.
I drew it, I created it, I have the copyright, yeah. Um, I I want you I would like to ask if you could tease a little, uh, on an area that there are parts of the realm, of the map itself, parts of the Forgotten Realms that we've only ever seen, like, kinda outlines of continents.
Mhm.
Have those been fleshed out in your mind, but not really transferred into paper form, book form, media, whatever, what have you? Um, but do you have ideas for those,
Yes,
for certain areas?
yes.
Like,
When
we've
you
got
get beyond the character was grafted on here.
Mhm,
Hordlands were grafted on
right,
here. Malatra, the living jungle, was grafted on here.
right.
When you get on beyond those, because my mental way of dealing with that was, okay, that's now blank slate, because I I toss aside what I have, just what I had story wise, like
Mhm.
merchants who come from there are carrying Cinnabar, or merchants who, whatever.
Right.
I distill it down to that, because now the shared realms, the published realms, is now different from mine, and
Right.
that's lore, settled lore. But for everything else, um, if you look at the rather fanciful maps of the continents that are way out far
Yeah.
away,
Yeah.
um, what I have in my mind is little nodes that are developed, and therefore on the blank map in between, what has to be there, as in between this node and this node, there has to be a barrier mountain range of some sort. Beyond that, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it's called.
Just
But
a rough idea of it.
for
Yeah.
this to work, these two things to work
Yeah.
and not run into each other or not have annihilated each other in the past, or, which is always a question you should ask when you're reading fiction or playing a role playing adventure. Why now?
Mhm.
Why does it take my player characters now
Right.
to solve this problem? Why didn't it happen 50 years ago, 100 years ago? What stopped it until
Right.
now?
Right.
Why are we, that sort of thing. So I have little nodes that are developed. They are a bit nebulous on where they can shift within the territory, like Saucel. I know what Saucel is. I know what the Saucerim are, but the actual individual thing where this waterfall is or that settlement is,
Sure.
we can
Yeah.
shift that around.
The granular stuff is
Yeah.
not there, but yeah, I gotcha. So this is another topic that we talked about, and I said I wanted to have something a little more organic here, but I got to ask it just because this is the guy that I was mentioning about. He was asking the question about RPGA stuff. So back in the '80s into the '90s, I think even RPGA even went into the 2000s.
Hmm.
Um, there were little adventure books, missives, that were written, and today a lot of that stuff is lost. Again, this is something a topic that Ed and I kind of talked a little bit about backstage before we went live, but I'm going to ask it again because hey, you guys are all listening now. But anyway, there were at that point, or what is believed to be about 500 or so little adventures that were written and distributed to RPGA. You had Living Greyhawk, you had even in the Forgotten Realms, you had the Ravens Bluff. That I think it was issue 30 of Polyhedra magazine
Hmm.
where they put a contest out there to, "Hey, we need a name for this," that they were gonna marry it into the Forgotten Realms, and they did anyway. Beside the point, I'm rambling there. But the question is, if you had access to or knew of any of those adventures,
Hmm. So there were the five published adventures.
and those were
Night
the FR or FL,
I think they were called LC, but
LC.
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, Night Watch in the Living City, da 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 da. Da. And then I was asked to write a second edition Realms source book that was a guide to Raven's Bluff,
Mhm.
and they gave me the notes and the map. Everything was very disorganized and incoherent, and I wrote a guidebook to the city there. There are also all those adventures out there, and there is a website that um, lays out um, links to some of them. Um, and some of the links are live, some of the links are dead. It also delineates which ones were never actually written, so that they exist in the catalog of the numbering system and the titles, but they never actually got put out, or at least if somebody was writing them, they never shared them with anybody. They never ran them, so they are in effect lost if they were ever finished at all. Um, but yeah, there are some stuff out there, and with a little hunting on the internet, you should be able to get some of it.
Mhm.
Um, so much has been lost with different iterations of the Wizards of the Coast website when links just went away,
Right.
and you will still find lots of stuff for it. Even in the live website today, where it says, "Oh yes, and if you want to know more, click here," and you click, and it says, "Oh, we want to sell you this other game," or
Yeah.
"Well, 404," or
Yeah.
whatever, and you go,
Yeah.
"Thanks, bye, guys," you know. But anyway, the adventures are still out there now. When you come across those adventures, some of them you're going to have to rewrite because in many, particularly if demons, devils, or dragons were involved, um, it was quite often, what do I need them to do for this adventure? Okay,
Right.
bingo.
Right.
So you may have to redo some hierarchies of hell and so on to make them fit the current iterations of the game, or again, lean on your unreliable narrators
Yeah.
because demons and devils can be very unreliable narrators. Oh yes, I'm the king.
Right.
What
Right.
was that scene from Life of Brian? I'm Brian, and my wife is too. You
Right. Right. Yeah.
know, so I mean, you can have
Yeah.
that sort of stuff going on,
Yeah.
and cover a lot of the lore discrepancies.
Yeah. Now, speaking of demons and devils, and this is going to kind of go back to the old TSR days. The whole satanic panic and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. Now, you were not actually a part. You weren't in their offices. You didn't
No,
work in their offices. But do you remember, like, do you remember the satanic panic from your perspective of behind the scenes stuff? Was
oh
that
sure.
did that cause you guys any kind of panic, or was that more of a, "This is free publicity?"
Well, yeah, but it also restricted what we could write.
Right.
So they took um, uh, at some point the management at TSR was actually taking things at the lowest common denominator level, in that
Mhm,
a holy roller television preacher who wanted money could
mhm.
stand there in front of the cameras and say, "The word demon is in this book 36 times, and
Yeah,
devils, they're in there 42 times, and your children are out there reading these books." So
yeah.
they took the words demon and devil out of the book and replaced them with ba, tazu, and tanari, and that was
Right,
somehow fooling everybody.
right, right,
Well, it was taking away that preacher because you would look at the book and the words are not in that book ever
right.
now. But it also caused the entire thing we had for Planescape and Spelljammer because they were a way of Spelljammer was taking attention away from the planes into spelljamming across the crystal spheres and the space in
Right.
between, literally taking the planes of existence, including the abyss and the nine hells, out
Yeah.
of the game. So they were not there, and not published, and not mentioned for some time. And then when you bring it back, you bring back Planescape, and it's Cutter, and it's Burke, and it's
Mhm.
the City of Doors, and everything's different. It's a edgy thing, but it is not Asmodeus drawn to look like Vincent
Hmm.
Price, going,
Right,
"Hi, kiddies, come into
right,
my parlor," which is
right.
what they were trying to get away from.
It's I mean, I very, very sharply remember that era. News reports left and right.
Hmm.
I had a buddy of mine whose mom took all of his books and threw them in the
Sure.
trash, and, I mean,
Yeah.
the stories like that are a dime a dozen, and it's funny now to
Hmm.
see, 2026 and look back at, 40 years ago at how that was all, uh, uh,
I
spun.
I moved from the big city. Okay, Toronto is Canada's biggest city,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and because we don't have nearly as many large cities as the United States, it is really dominant. It is dominant in the same way New York dominates that whole
Sure.
hinterland. Um, and I moved out to the country because 400,000 books.
Yeah.
And every single church in town, and we had 8 of them at that point in this tiny little village, tried to recruit me because they heard that I could sing.
Yeah.
Don't worry, folks, I can no longer sing. Throat surgery, heart surgery, gone. But anyway, I could sing. So they all tried to recruit me. And Reverend Parson, yes, Parson Parsons, came up to me and said, "I have a concern. I hear you practice Satanism." And I said, "No, I've
Wow.
never met the man." By whom I meant the guy who is running the Church of Satan,
Right.
and on, whatever, um, who lived in California, as far as I was concerned, and I'd never met him. I'd seen him on TV a couple times, but and he said, "Ha ha ha." He says, "But um, no, it's this Dungeons and Dragons." And so what we did was run an impromptu session of Dungeons and Dragons. And he said, "Okay, when does it start?" And I said, "We're playing it right now." And he said, "No, no, no, no. Where is all the?" And I said, "Oh." And then one of the guys said, "Okay, Ed, you can tell him." And I said, "Okay, we can't play real D&D because I can't buy any black candles anywhere in town, and this is Northumberland County, so there are no virgins." He was shocked. You know,
Oh, I can only imagine.
yeah, but no, once they because then it was became the role playing. Well, then role playing became something that business leaders and eventually
Right.
high school teachers and college level. Oh, we have to do role playing to how to deal with difficult people, how to diffuse sexual harassment, how
Right.
to you do
Right.
role playing. And we said, "Yeah, we're experts." "Yeah, sure you are." "Yeah, no, no, no. We've been doing role playing professionally for 20, 30, 40 years. Let me show you." You know, and
Yeah.
they'd say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, elf lord." To borrow the slur that Leroy Jethro Gibbs was always throwing at one of his crew in NCIS, because he figured out the guy played lots of computer games online, and they were fantasy computer games. He'd say, "Come on, Elf Lord, fix
Yeah.
this." But I mean, they'd say, "Well, you're playing an Elf Lord. That's not the same thing as role playing." Yeah, it sort of is.
Yeah.
And then they would shoot themselves in the foot because the training films they would show us were John Cleese with Richard, his doctor friend, doing difficult patrons and
Yeah.
diffusing, and it was all played for laughs. So we'd say, "Aha, yeah, okay, yeah, you have a great moral leg to stand on here." You know, but no, it was. I didn't. Beyond that, I had a few nice little old ladies say they would pray for me.
Of course. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
beyond that, I never. I had one very angry father who'd gotten hold of the wrong end of the stick and thought that we were basically seducing all the girls, including his teenage daughter,
Mm.
and we took care of that by simply saying, "Then come with them, be their
Yeah.
chaperone."
Yeah.
And he sat in and played and became one of our long-term players. He said, "This is cool." And and one of the guys sitting next to him says, "And nobody's taken their clothes off yet."
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best things, that I've seen happen over the years, is that stigma has long since fallen away,
Mhm.
and it's also kind of broken out of the realm of the nerd, the geek, the outcast, and you now have the jocks, the popular guys, the cheerleaders are all playing it now.
Yeah.
And I don't I wanna I'm not gonna give that credit to, like, Stranger Things. Stranger Things did their part of it, sure, but I really wanna say that the culture of D&D, it's something that has beat time,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. It's a game that has proven itself that it's not what everybody back in the '80s said it was. It has sustained itself. It has lasted much longer than a lot of other games out there. Um, and
Well,
I think,
th there's 2 things
yeah.
that is that has happened. One of them is a broader cultural thing, particularly in North America, Hollywood, and
Mhm.
television as it has now become with streaming services and miniseries.
Right.
Um, the nerds of our generations have found themselves running studios,
Yeah.
and they have started making the movies they wished they could
Yeah.
watch when they were
Yeah.
little kids.
Yeah.
And this has shifted the zeitgeist, if you want to use the big words, but it has
Right.
shifted things so that we're getting more mainstream.
Yeah.
People can see it on, whether it's a Marvel Universe
Yeah.
movie. Look, you can put on spandex. Look, you can blow things
Yeah.
up. Infinity Gauntlet, whatever, and so people are accepting that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And yeah, there's lots of things that have shifted in the world. And I think the other thing is that the the thing we miss in the world is getting together with friends.
Yeah.
Family is different because sometimes that's a command performance, and sometimes you don't want to be with
Right.
creepy Uncle Al or whatever,
Right.
and
Right.
you're stuck with them because you can't choose your family.
Right.
But and although we may not physically get together, we may be doing it the way you and I are doing it right now with
Hmm.
pixels across vast distances. It is a way of having community, family together because we share the same interests and
Right.
we play the same things. And it's something that we've lost in this increasingly isolated, individualistic world in which we're on our own. And this is a chance of getting together in community again.
Connecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's honestly, that's the root of it. That's what, when I first started playing, that's what I liked so much about it is that it gave me that opportunity. I was a shy kid.
Mhm.
I was
Me too.
beyond shy. I hid behind my mom's legs, and I
Mhm.
couldn't look at people. And D&D helped get me out of that. It there's the funny thing has gone around for years. Hey, have you ever played D&D? Yeah, yeah, I have. Okay, great. When you fill out your resume, tell them that you've got, list on there that you've got team building skills.
Mhm.
Oh, were you the warrior of the party or the druid of the healer of the party? Well, I was the warrior. Okay, so that's pretty much a team leader right there. So you've got leadership skills.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. But that, while it's said in jest, there's a lot of truth in that.
Sure.
And that mindset, that skill set that D&D provided to me did help break me out of that shell. And being able to talk to other people, play with other people, understand that, my method of going in swinging, was probably not as diplomatic as, somebody else going in with a diplomacy check and going, "Okay, you have this, we want that. We have this. Can we trade you this for that?" Instead of me going in and just saying, "I'm just gonna take it." That taught me certain skill sets that I was able to take from that, from the game, to apply to my real life. And a lot of people might say, "Well, that's crazy. No, a game can't do that for you." Well, bullshit, it can. It
Mhm.
absolutely can. And I think that over the years, like I said, a minute ago, that the stigma of, devils and demons, that kind of thing, the satanic panic, has fallen away from the game D&D specifically. And more people are seeing it as, even you pointed out, that there are even some companies that are using D&D as a team building exercise,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's just crazy, crazy to think about.
Oh, I've seen it happen
Yeah.
in school situations because I sometimes come in and guest speak at schools. Yes, I'm your children are being exposed to me. No, where the quiet teacher or the shy female student at the back of the class who is customarily drowned out and overlooked by the
Mhm.
extroverts, the jocks, the
Right.
who ridicule everything, um, in a game situation will come up with the solution. Like, well, how do we get that wand? Because it's down this really narrow drilled hole that the dwarves left behind. And she says, "Well, why don't we just start dipping water from the pool over there and pouring it down the hole? The wand is wooden; it will float to the
Mhm.
top eventually if we put enough water in there." And they all look at her like she has 15 heads, and then they try it, and then the dungeon master, lo and behold, it works.
Mhm.
And then later in real life, when you're asked to pair up and do this thing in science lab or whatever, come
Right.
up with a solution. Instead of being overlooked and ignored, they all speak their ideas, the extroverts, and we jot them down in this sort of point form thing, and then they all turn and look at her and said, "Okay, what do you got?" Whereas before they wouldn't have said that. Now they know this person, this
Yeah.
person has a brain, and we should listen.
Yeah.
Which means that person has now, they may or may not grow their confidence that way, but they are no longer being belittled, overlooked, and discounted
Right.
by their classmates
Right.
because of, yes, a game.
Mhm. I mean, hey, I'm a gamer at heart, always have been. What got me into it to begin with was playing Zork, many, many, many years ago. And it was that and reading books, of course, just really got me into I love fantasy, you know, and that it was just a natural progression for me to jump into D&D.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. It was I mean, I remember my first game and, I rolled up a rogue and the DM says, "Okay, well, you find a chest." All right, I open it. Okay, hand me your character sheet. Why? Well, you're dead. Well, how did I die? You don't know. You're dead. Oh, I fell in love with the game right then instantly. I mean, it's like, wow, this is so cool. And I think that that's a stigma. I will say that that is a stigma in today's environment is I think a lot of people assume that players are fearful of their characters dying. And DMs, it seems like the modern DM is more uh wants to be less you're going to be put in danger where, you're risking being killed, but we're just gonna let things slide and you're gonna live. Don't worry about it. Whereas, back in the day, uh, yeah, I mean, it was your task to stay alive, and you
Hmm.
had to be careful.
Yes.
Um, I will say that that's the one stigma that I've noticed in more modern, gameplay. Um, it's not how I run my table. My players know better. They know that, and it's not DM versus player.
No.
It's never
Yeah.
been
That.
that. It's
Yeah.
it's been more of a I love puzzles, and
Hmm.
that's how I see the game of D&D is just one large, massive puzzle. So the players they know that oh, okay, well there's the entrance to a cave over there. We're not going to just waltz right on in. There's probably something 10 feet in that's going to come at us. They know this.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
how it is. Um, I'm assuming that you have run your more than your fair share of games. I
Yes.
mean, I just an assumption, small assumption. When you're doing it, I know that you've already kind of portrayed the voice of Elminster. Um, you've mentioned in the past that you have sung, so I'm going to assume that you've had some bardic stuff happening as that. Do you get into doing voices?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay. As I get older, my love for the ridiculous Monty Python voices,
Yeah.
where I am supposed to put my voice 3 octaves up, you know,
Yeah.
the penguin on top of your TV
Right.
is about to explode.
Right.
It has less and less appeal for me because I know that that's going to break my voice after about 20 minutes. Whereas I could get away with a lot more when I was younger. But yes, I still change the cadence and the delivery
Yeah.
to bring home to players that this is a different
A
person they're
different
talking
person.
to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it is, I had one at the last game hole where something that was supposed to take 3 minutes, 2 hours later, because they were so fascinated
Right.
to speak to a fae, and the fae was trying to get things out of these stupid humans, and the bandying was going on back and forth. And the delight for me is I had a table full of what I would call veteran gamers of all ages and genders and all the rest of it. And then I had a mother who was sitting in, and it was her first convention, and her eyes were bulging at some of the things the Fae was saying to the humans because the Fae had no barriers
Yeah.
and, so what do you humans do when you're having sex sort of thing. And not using the phrase having sex because that's modern, but
Right.
he was talking about rutting and so on,
Right.
and she was sort of going, uh you can like say this, oh my god, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was just mind blown. And then after a bit of silence, it was like she decided, look, we want to get this out of you, and you've already wasted enough of our time, so here's what you want to know about my sexual habits.
Yeah.
And the Fae goes, well,
Just
thank you, it's such a pleasure to deal with someone who understands that information can be bartered like food, so thank you for telling me, and I in turn will tell you this. And she was but got past the thingy and was like, and after she looks at it and said, I've never had so much fun, even though I was exasperated as hell with this Faye going
yeah.
on and on, but it worked. I tried the tactic and it worked, and I've never been spoken to like that before, and it was strangely fun. And I said, you might not want to try that at the supermarket.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that might could play for some, awkward moments.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
although,
yeah,
I mean, you never know.
yeah. And again, you as a dungeon master, you read your audience.
Yeah.
There's
That's
there's no
important.
point in
Yeah.
upsetting the grandfather who's come along to chaperone his grandchildren,
Right.
and the the talk at the table is inappropriate to them, and
Right.
and the grandparent is honestly horrified.
Right.
There's no point in doing that. They can see that they can be horrified on TV for free and all the time.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
just watch
Yeah.
whatever the latest slasher horror flick is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to take you out of your everyday, and now you're a blacksmith in this, or it's the fall of Rome, and here come the Visigoths.
Mhm.
You're gonna die. What do you grab?
Right.
Or, oh no, the Vikings have landed, and you're trying to hide the
Yeah.
woman, and the Vikings come up and say, "Yeah, we're looking for some copper. We're willing to trade." And you realize the Vikings are the traders
Yeah.
of the world. They're not looking upon you as a place to raid, to pillage, because they want to do business with you next year and next year
Right.
and next year. So they look upon you as a source of copper. So what do you want to trade?
Right.
And you're going mind blown, you know.
So, I'm gonna ask the most important question of the evening. You had mentioned a bit ago that you had something like 16 projects in the works.
hmm
What's the next big one? What can you tease?
Who boy. Uh well, they're all going on at once. So next depends very much on outside factors.
Sure.
Earlier today, um, I was finding a lost chapter from Elminster, The Making of a Mage, because
Oh.
it's promised for the auction at GaryCon. Um, One of the people participating in the auction has a copy of Elminster, The Making of a Mage they want to auction off. And they said, you told me there were some lost chapters beyond the stuff that was on the website for years. And I said, yeah, come on, can we have one copy of that lost chapter to auction off
Oh.
with the book? So I had to find it on all my old ancient hard drives in USB, and I did. So
Wow.
pulling that out was one. Um, so that's ongoing at the moment. I'm also for Fate of the Norns, the Viking role playing game that Pendelhaven,
Mhm.
Andrew
Mhm.
Balkauskas publishes. I'm doing Aucli or Athcliath, the Viking ruled Dublin, which really happened in real life, but we're doing a fantasy version, which means you're getting a fantasy city with every building detailed. And every building has at least one NPC, and the NPC has a dirty secret, so you can blackmail. Excuse me, have social combat with them,
Sure. Yeah.
in the game. So, for each NPC, you get characteristics. That's what their voice is like. Do they gesticulate and talk with their hands like I'm doing now?
Right.
Well, how do I role play them? They have a proclivities, what they're interested in life and what their hobbies are, and they have this dirty secret plus a description. So you're finally getting a city where if your players, because they are asshole players, go, we're not going on your adventure. Thank you very much. We're going down that alley. What's the third door on the left?
Yeah. Yeah. That
Oh,
happens.
and you will have an entire detailed city. So you can say, okay, you open the door and here's what happens because you've got the entire city. This has taken me
Yeah.
3.5 years so far. And I've still
Oof.
got about a year and a half, and I'm working my way through it block by block. So that's the ongoing
Wow.
one. There is another Realms project I can't talk more about that is
That's a
big.
good tease right there.
Okay, think of a large glossy book,
Yeah.
sort of like Border Kingdoms and Thay that
Uh-huh.
I put out on the DM's Guild. Well, there's something about that. There's also I'm working with some friends of mine from Infinite Games on their own fantasy setting, and I'm doing a new city for that. I'm working with Darren Drader on the Daring and Dread fantasy setting, and I'm doing new cities for him, which is sort of like super duper versions of the Forgotten Realms Adventures write ups for Forgotten Realms cities back in second
Hmm.
edition. I'm
Yeah.
just doing those at great length. I'm working with GUI Cube. I'm working with uh, the Catalyst. I'm working with Gale Force 9. I'm working with Elderbrain is something I have to fire up. I'm working on some Greyhawk stuff. I'm working on oh geez, it never ends.
It
Um,
never ends. Yeah.
uh, boy, there's and I'm looking over. The reason my eyes are going everywhere. I'm looking at all the icons on my desktop, which are all folders,
Yeah.
which all have like. Although there's a necroman. Oh, I can't say more about that. Um, uh, and then the other thing I do is I do stuff for Hollywood, um, script doctoring, fixing things, and
Oh,
I also still occasionally help other authors fix their books. Like, here's what you need to do to get to the end of this. Here's how you need to wrap it up. So that is ongoing as well. So yeah, it never ends. Um, and I'm writing lyrics for music. I do voiceovers for computer games. I do narrative design for computer games, and most of those are NDA up the wazoo, so I can't
yeah.
talk
Of
about them.
course. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
there's
it's safe to assume though that the Duffer Brothers did not come to you for a consult on how to end Stranger Things.
no, they did not. Um, one of the things that is really hard to do, and I actually had a lot of experience doing this with Harlequins back in the day, is how to end a story,
Yeah.
particularly if you're a first-time writer. And for Harlequins, they had lots of first-time writers who Harlequin will swear up and down they don't have formulae for their books. They have
They do.
formulae for
Yeah.
their books.
Of
And
course.
these people were in those days it was sent to you in paper and packages. Now apparently it's all online. I don't know the details, but it would say if you're writing for this line at Harlequin, the books can be this long and no longer. So they would write to the end of their word count and stop. They hadn't finished the story in a satisfying way. They'd run out of word count to tell the story in. And if the book was good enough and Harlequin really wanted to publish it, occasionally I would be asked on a under the table basis, could you just write the ending to this? Of course, when they say just, it means in the author's style,
Yeah.
and it can't be a word longer. So you have to go back through the entire book and trim out stuff
To make
to
it fit.
reach the same word count. By the
Yeah.
way, this happens in Hollywood movies. So if you're ever
Oh,
watching a
yeah.
movie
Yeah.
and you say, "What the is going on?" It's because somebody's gone back through the movie and taken out all the exposition scenes, which is what Deadpool is continually harping
Yeah.
on when he talks to the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, like the exposition's gone again.
Right. Right.
Because somebody's had to take out scenes where we explain what's going on in order to have another car chase. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, another 20-minute car chase, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I literally have I had to count them up the other day because it is tax time
Yeah,
in the real world.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so we are going over things, and you have to count. Well, okay, is this finished? Is this a finished project? Have all the costs been realized
right,
in
right,
this taxation year? And the answer is always no. It's
right,
like life; it's never finished until abruptly it is. And when it abruptly is, I won't be here to tell you it's finished.
right.
So get used to this. You know, so yeah. Uh, I really can't spill too much more other than to say one of my chief delights is for the Patreon and so on to answer lore questions. And they come to me at Greenwood's Grotto on Discord, which by the way you can join for free, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
They're on my Patreon, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and I try and answer the realms lore questions every day of my life. I'm way behind. I'm years behind on some of them, but I try to write them up and then they become lore for all of us. So
Yeah, and
that's
and
the most
that's
fun. Yeah.
I will say this, that I highly, highly recommend, folks following Ed on X, also checking out the Discord and the Patreon because like you said, there are specific areas there, in the Discord where you can ask Realms questions about Forgotten Realms lore, and he answers them. And like what you just said, I mean, you'll answer them, and that becomes lore for everybody.
Mhm.
There is I I would venture to guess that Forgotten Realms probably has the most lore-driven chunk of information about it than any other given world-built, uh, thing out there. I don't think even Tolkien didn't
Mhm.
have as much of a breadth as Forgotten Realms has.
True.
Um, and it goes back to exactly what we were saying earlier, is that you put this out there and let everybody else run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I keep coming up with more questions. I was going to really try to limit this to 1 hour. Here we are in an hour and 47 minutes. So I'm going to try to start wrapping it up. But this is a question that it's there. When you run across lore that somebody else or information that somebody else has developed on the Forgotten Realms, have you ever gone, "Ooh, that's really cool. I'm going to use part of that."
All the time.
Yeah,
And we've even had stuff on the grotto where somebody came up with an explanation, and I've said, "That's canon.
that's
That's
awesome.
now canon."
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the other thing is there are people, George Crashos, Eric Logan Boyd, and for um, Cormier, Brian Cortijo, Tom Costa, a lot of people, Brian James, who is probably listening right now, Eric Scott to be, are all of our authors, Aaron Evans, Rosemary Jones, da, da, da,
Mhm.
who they've added stuff, and I say, yeah, that's canon now.
That's
Um,
awesome.
their stuff, and George, Eric, and Brian have specifically spent years of their life explaining away inconsistencies between different products by coming up with in-world explanations that are a little better than that author was drunk. That's wrong. Um,
Right.
but actually have an explanation in the world that reconciles two apparently or three or four apparently irreconcilable factoids. They make them all fit together. Uh,
Um, so I want to open up a little bit to a few questions in the chat. North Star asks, let's see, that if you could bring back the Netheril Empire, how would you do it? And how would a Thay Empire would ever for an expansionist adventure for the I'm not sure I understand that last
Oh boy.
how would you
Okay, so let's take that. That's two
Yeah,
questions. Let's
yeah.
start at the beginning. Well, the cut line, the subtitle for Souls for the Taking was the
Mhm,
Return of Larlock.
mhm,
Larlock's another he's
mhm, mhm,
okay. There are lots of liches and arch liches out there from
mhm, mhm,
Netheril.
mhm.
That's how it's probably going to come back, and they're going to do it floating by question. Floating city here, floating city there. And the whole point of that part of the Netherese Empire is everybody did their own thing. That's why there were floating cities. They ran it their way, not like the guy next door in his floating city. So they're all going to be trying to do their stuff. Thultanthar, the city of shade, as we saw in the second Sundering trilogy, the Sundering trilogy, they wanted to like conquest. They were going to conquer lots of things, and um, that not all of them are going to be that way. Some of them you're going to find floating cities that are quietly being enclaves off by themselves, and they don't want publicity. They don't want the wider world, and they want you to keep out.
Yeah.
Now, Thay is a particular. It's a particular unique situation because Zastam is
Hmm.
expansionist. We
Yeah.
already have a published history in Realms lore of him trying and failing, trying and failing, trying. He's like the Keystone Cops,
Yeah.
um, because
Yeah.
because the designers, the in-house designers, decree at the end of an adventure or a third-party licensed computer game that he's
Mhm.
failed because they don't change the status quo in the world.
Right.
It's assumed the players won, beat him, whatever, in the game, so he has failed yet again. This doesn't stop him trying, and he surrounds himself with the ultimate yes people, liches he creates who will do what he says. So his Zulkirs are all yes people. So nobody tells him that's a stupid idea. So he tries stupid idea after stupid idea, and most of them don't work. Um, so Thay is going to be trying for expansion, but Thay has a problem. It has a traditional enemy that it's made an enemy, Rashomon, on one border. It has two other traditional enemies, Mulhorand and Unther, nearby to the south. And Zastam is now pricking at the Dragon Princes in Murgom. And they're just about to say, listen, little guy,
Yeah.
and lash back. So, and we also have I put enclaves, trading enclaves, all across the entire known world, and then I abandoned them. So you have the red wizards who are in those trading enclaves who are going, wait a minute, I just got abandoned. Why don't I just run this for my own
Yeah.
profit? So you go back to, say, historical examples, the East Indian Trading Company, particularly as they were fictionally portrayed in the Pirates of the
Yeah.
Caribbean
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
So they're doing their own thing. They may be cloaking their things for king and country or queen
Right.
and country, but
Right.
they're really in it for themselves,
For themselves.
and
Yeah.
they're willing to do just about anything.
Yeah.
Um, and what that means is it devolves into individual battles, and sooner or later, you and Zastam, if you thwart him off enough, are going to become personal enemies. Which is one of the reasons in when I did the Thay book with Alan Patrick and Alex Kammer, and Alex Kammer has to be commended for not only running GameOcon, but bankrolling these books, buying all the art
Hmm.
and planning everything. They put together a shadow cabinet of red wizards who've been driven out of Thay, and they're looking at the individual Zulkirs and saying, I could do better in your Zulkirate than you are, and I'm gonna come for you. And the moment Zastam's back is turned, you're going down. And therefore you as player characters could make common cause with these
Right.
people out there because they don't care so much about trying to conquer the world. That's Zastam's. They want to conquer Thay and get home again.
Right. They want their little corner.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you help them, you're
Right.
ridding the world of them because they're no longer out in the rest of the world. They're back home where they want to be, ruling Thay or ruling their little bit of it. And you now have an ally who will not forget that you helped me.
Right.
Which is, when you were asking earlier about how will the world go over the next 500 years,
Yep. Yep.
you build enough of those little alliances,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then you get the thing. But you know, but my lord, he is a Kalashite, or he is from Waterdeep. Yes, and he saved my ass once,
Yep.
and you have not done that.
Yeah. You
So
charged, yeah, you
yeah,
charged me too much for that last shipment. Yeah.
yeah.
Of all of the characters that you have created other than Elminster, which one has been your most favorite?
I yeah, I get asked this a lot, and I always say,
Yeah,
"Come on, you're asking me to choose my favorite
I
child."
know, I
You know,
know.
um, I would think the most fun is Storm Silverhand, because she is a den mother to a lot of Harpers that she's training, and a lot of those Harpers end up living in her farmhouse for a bunch of time, and
Yeah,
she's cooking for them, and they are getting to see what it's like when you've been alive for like 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years, and you just don't care anymore. So people make a lot of hay of the naked wood
yeah,
chopping scene, and that
mm,
was in there to say, I don't care.
right,
Everybody I grew up with is dead. The kingdoms I grew up with
right,
are gone. I don't care anymore.
yeah,
I care about what I care about, which is people and getting along with them. Like, if you happen to show up unannounced and I'm naked, so what?
yeah,
You know, I got more
mm,
wrinkles than I used to have. Too late, you know.
yeah, yeah,
um, and therefore, Storm is fun in a lot of ways. Because she's like the ultimate. She can be the ultimate sex pot, and she doesn't care.
right.
So she isn't posing. She
Well, and
isn't.
plus she visits you and takes chocolate.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
assume at some point she's gotta be dropping something off.
Well, yeah. Um, it gives me a chance in a non-creepy way
Yeah,
to say, "Candy, little girl,"
right, right.
because the little girl can blow me away, and we both know it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, she can literally dice
just
me, and the body will hit the floor in different slices
yeah,
before
yeah,
she's finished waving her sword back and forth.
yeah,
So therefore, the instant respect.
yeah. Aaron Farr asks that, let's see, they never really got into the Forgotten Realm canon. Given the breadth of all the Forgotten Realms content that's out there, what would you recommend as an entry point? Um, my 2
Oh
cents
boy.
worth, this,
Yeah,
the original gray box set.
yeah.
I mean,
If you want to be 5e specific, the two
yeah,
books that Wizards of the Coast have just put out are a really good way of getting rolling on adventures in the
yeah,
realms.
yeah,
Um, if you want what the realms feels like, pick where you want to start.
yeah.
And Spellfire was meant as an introductory novel, and Swords of Evening Star, which is the first of the Knights trilogy, Knights of Mythjanner, and that is we're teenagers.
Mhm.
We want to go see the world and have adventures. Be very careful what you ask for. But yeah, if I was trying to do an all around realms campaign, I would do Old Gray Box, the third edition Forgotten Realms compendium campaign setting, the
Mhm.
beige one. Okay, because that has the most between two covers. Forgotten Realms Adventures, because it gives you all the cities, a quick overview if you want cities. And then I would lean on the FR Wiki and Candlekeep as websites. And you
Oh,
just do
yeah,
search
yeah,
functions. Like if
yeah,
you come across something, oh, where do I find out more about this herb? Where do I find out more about that wood?
yeah,
Where do I find out more about loots or yartings? You just type it in and there's your answer.
yeah,
And then ask at the grotto.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not just me who
that's
answers questions, it's all the people. So you could
right.
ask a question, and the author of the novel you're asking about could just step in out of the blue and answer you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ed, we've talked about it, not all of it, but we've talked about it. Uh, I wanna be respectful of your time, and I do appreciate like I said, I was gonna try to limit this to 1 hour. We're hitting on 2.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
okay. It happens. No,
it
thank
does,
you
it
very
does.
much for having me. This has been great fun.
Yeah,
Maybe we can do it again and delve into other stuff because,
always.
what always happens when we ask this, and it'll happen for you and it happens for everybody in chat. Oh, I wanted to ask about,
Yep, yep, yep,
yeah, yeah,
yep, yep. I will say, I'll let everybody know, you had mentioned earlier about, Eric and Savannah, part of the RealmsBound. I'm actually going to have them on as a live
excellent,
chat like this, live stream like this in a few weeks. So I
excellent.
highly encourage everybody to return back. And again, do me the favor, send this link out, share it with everybody that you've gamed with. I'd love more people to see it. Ed can be found everywhere. I will do my best to compile as an extensive list as I can, and I'll leave that as a pinned comment once this propagates into the actual YouTube algorithm and all that stuff, so you guys can find everywhere where he's available. And of course, hey, listen, as you put out more projects, I can't promise I'll be on top of them day one, because sometimes news getting to the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, is a little slow. Yeah,
Mm,
we have internet, but
mhm.
sometimes it's a little slow. But I will do my best to get on top of it and get it out there because for me, it's a hot topic. It's something that I'm interested in, and I gotta say that there has been that saying that you should never meet your heroes. Um, Not to put you so high up on a pedestal, but I will say that it has been beyond amazing to sit and meet with you and talk with you and just blather about stuff.
I'm just a guy, but thank you very much for
Yeah, you're
having me.
just a guy, but you are also just a guy that from 1987 on helped to shape and mold a lot of how I approach things. And it's been an honor for me to sit here with you tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for listening to us blather. Um, because when you wind up old farts and get them going,
We
they
go.
have stories, and
Yeah.
and I can go on for about 18 hours with stories, and some of them are even allowable on air.
I
but
get it.
but
It's
yeah.
it's the ones that aren't allowable on air. That's the ones I want to hear.
Oh, well then. Uh, yeah, but I mean seriously,
Yeah.
we could do this again at some time, and
Yeah.
if people have burning questions, yeah, because that's the best when we answer your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It is. It is. And I really want to incorporate that in. But I appreciate you joining in tonight. And guys, until next our paths cross, may you not run afoul of gosh, and I should have asked that question. Um, I
You
gotta
don't
know.
have to
This is
be the
this is
fastest tentacle in the room. You
exactly.
just
You just have to be the one that knows how to grab. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There we
there's
go.
there's the Dracolich that was in that was created in Forgotten Realms.
Mhm.
Do you I for the life of me, I cannot recall the name of him. Um, it was a piece of artwork that was in this gray box set. I'll have to ask that. I'll have to research it on my own, and
Okay.
I'll have to ask that next
I
time.
created Dracoliches. There
Okay.
were skeletal dragons before that in
Okay.
Greyhawk,
Okay.
but I created for Dragon 110, the elucidation of
I
Elminster.
think you just answered the question. That's what I was
Okay,
gonna ask is who actually created the concept of that Dracolich?
me.
Okay. Okay.
It was like come up with new liches, and I just done arch
Yeah.
liches for Spelljammer and so on. And the whole point was to do different liches
Yeah.
because the problem with the original game, you see a sphere with eyes. It's either a gas spore or a beholder. So fire stuff at it from long range. If
Yeah.
it blows up, it's a gas spore. If it doesn't, run.
Right.
So you then wanted to increase the role playing by having all sorts of lookalikes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was that what got me hooked on Dracolich was that was also the era of Night of the Living Dead, Return of the
Mm,
Living Dead.
hmm
Huge zombie fan back in the day. Uh, and so, I mean, hey, a a zombie dragon? Oh, come on. This is just ah. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna leave it there, folks.
Okay.
Until next our paths cross, may you not run afoul of a Dracolich. And now we have this awkward stare